Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we got to talk about what is going down in the Daniel Penny case, because we had major updates after I dropped my video yesterday, and that is, of course, my warnings coming to fruition, because the prosecution has used a damn near unprecedented move in order to break the deadlock jury, in order to force them into a coerced guilty verdict on the lesser charge, and we have to talk about how uncommon this is, how nasty of a tactic this is, and how it's actually rather unfortunate that the judge ended up signing off on this. Now, we're going to get into this, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
Yeah, good afternoon, first of all, to you there, Teresa, and the jury sending the note to the judge at 11:03 this morning. When that note came into the courtroom, and our colleague, Michelle Ross, is in that courtroom, so she is communicating to us everything that is going on inside there. When they received that note, defense attorneys read the note, and then the prosecutor read the note. Michelle is telling me that when the prosecutor read that note, she looked down and she grinned. It was not a grin of happiness. It was a grin of, I cannot believe I'm reading this. I just can't believe it. Well, what she couldn't believe is that the jury is deadlocked on count one.
So if you'll recall, yesterday we got word from the jury that they were unable to reach a verdict on the manslaughter charge in the Daniel Penny case because the jury was split. Now, as of right now, we have no idea what the split actually is, whether it's 6-6, 11-1 on either side. It does not matter. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of people were celebrating this, saying that Daniel Penny was going to get a mistrial and therefore he was going to get off. However, I was very cautious about this particular update because I knew that there were a series of steps that the judge was going to take in order to try to press them into a verdict on that top line charge. On top of that, I also believe that if they were split on the top line charge, there is a greater chance that they might move to convict on the lesser charge as some sort of a compromise, and many of people doubted me. Many of people said, Sean, well, under New York law, they can't even review the second charge until they get past the first, and while that was 100% true, the prosecution has essentially altered the deal in the 11th hour in a very sinister way.
Now, this drop charge comes after jurors sent two notes today saying they could not reach a unanimous decision on the top count. Judge Wiley sent them back to the jury room on an Allen charge, giving them instructions to try and reach a verdict. They tried, and they tried hard, because they sent another note asking to define the term reasonable person. And after getting the definition on that, they again said they could not come to an agreement. The prosecution then requested to drop the top charge of manslaughter in the second degree if the jury could still deliberate on the lesser charge of criminally negligent homicide. Now, the defense opposed this and called for a mistrial, but instead, Judge Wiley granted the prosecution's request to throw out the top charge and sent jurors home early for the day. They will begin to deliberate on criminally negligent homicide on Monday morning.
Yeah, that's right. The prosecution, not the defense, motioned the judge in order to dismiss the manslaughter charge so that the jury could only review the criminally negligent homicide charge, which is a significantly lesser charge against Daniel Penny. But while a lot of people are celebrating that the manslaughter is off the table, the fact of the matter is this was done in a very cynical manner in order to break what would have been a hung jury, what would have led to a mistrial, and I find this to be incredibly unfortunate. Again, just think about it in terms of scale. If they're split on the top line charge, the chances of them actually agreeing on a lesser charge are definitely higher. This is not the same thing as if they would have cleared the manslaughter charge themselves and got split on the secondary charge. However, there are some benefits for Daniel Penny. The fact of the matter is he will not be prosecuted ever again on this manslaughter charge, even if we go to a mistrial on the secondary charge. But the fact of the matter is the prosecution almost never does this at this late stage of the game, and essentially this creates yet another corrupt incentive in our judicial system for them to charge high-level charges, and if you get a conviction for the prosecution, that's considered a W, even though you were unsure about that charge. But then, if you don't get a conviction, if you get word that the jury is struggling on that particular charge, you just pull back and try to serve them up on a silver platter the lesser included offenses in the hopes that you could wrangle out a conviction on those, when if you were just doing this straight up, you likely would not have gotten that as the result. And again, we heard from the courtroom that the prosecution was absolutely stunned that people wouldn't send Daniel Penny up the river.
The prosecutor read that note, she looked down, and she grinned. It was not a grin of happiness. It was a grin of, I cannot believe I'm reading this. I just can't believe it. Well, what she couldn't believe is that the jury is deadlocked on count one.
And this is despite the fact that we have a very questionable cause of death diagnosis from the medical examiner, who in her initial report said that she could not determine cause of death.
They also noted after she performed the autopsy, Neely's death certificate originally said cause of death pending further study. Dr. Harris said that was due to a misunderstanding. A police report said Neely had been screaming, so she had questions. After viewing video of an unresponsive Neely, and though waiting for toxicology results, she made her ruling, doubling down, telling the jury that Neely could have had enough fentanyl in his system to knock down an elephant, and that still would not have changed her opinion.
Only to amend that later and say after she saw the video, she decided that it was due to the chokehold, which again is not what a medical examiner should be doing in my opinion. And in addition to that, we have a bunch of other questionable aspects of this case. First and foremost, the fact that the person who assisted Daniel Penny in the restraint of Jordan Neely, the restraint that was supposedly overkill and totally unnecessary, got an immunity deal while Daniel Penny was facing criminal charges. Again, double standards based on race, because that other guy was Latino and Daniel Penny, of course, is white, are obvious from this prosecutor. And by the way, it goes far beyond this case. I played this clip before, but I will play it again, of the prosecutor, who is a woman called Daphne Euron, saying that she deliberately went out of her way to throw a prosecutable case, which was a felony murder, in order to benefit the criminal.
So I'm going to give you an example of something that I did with a recent case of mine, and this has never been done in my office. I had a murder case where the defendant did not intentionally kill the victim. He went into an ATM on the Upper West Side and tried to rob an individual. Unfortunately, it was an older individual. He was 86. And in the course of the robbery, he fell to the ground, and as a result, he died. This is, under the law, a felony murder, which is akin to intentional murder. However, when I first got the case, I learned, I took the time to learn about the defendant. And it was a strong case, so it wasn't about a whodunit. I knew immediately who did it. I could prove it. I could take it to trial that day and win it. But it wasn't about that. It was that the more I learned about the defendant and his life and the circumstances, the kinds of things that Jarrell was talking about, that one should take into account the trauma of that individual, I really felt incredibly sorry for him that he had gotten to that point in his life where he felt like there was no other choice but to commit this robbery.
You know, I'm starting to get more and more comments from you guys out there in the audience saying, Sean, it's a bit played out when you say these people view criminals, view violent repeat offenders as innocent Beba Angel Aladdin's victims of circumstances. But the fact of the matter is, that is exactly what she said. She had a prosecutable felony murder case for a guy who robbed an 86-year-old professor, knocked him to the ground, caused him to die over $300, and she said that she was taken aback by the circumstances that forced that man in order to commit that crime. And in this particular case, rather than pursuing the felony murder charges, she ended up getting a manslaughter plea deal. And guess what? The suspect in that case, who is convicted, Matthew Lee, is up for parole in the state of New York in 2 years. 2026, this guy is likely to get out on the recommendation of Daphne Euron, somebody who is supposed to be advocating for the victims. And this is some sick and twisted nonsense. When you read the details of this particular case, obviously the crime is heinous, but even more heinous is the fact that this woman essentially had the family meet with this criminal, sold them a bill of goods on how he was such an innocent Beba Angel and he was so sweet, and essentially he was forced to kill their relative relative, and the family said, okay, I guess we agree to what you're saying because you're the prosecution and we think you're supposed to be advocating for us. So if you say it, I guess we'll buy into it. And they ended up endorsing this deal, at least the family members that she dragged in order to have Matthew Lee, the criminal, the killer in that instance, play victim in front of them. And guess what? I don't give a damn if the family is actually genuinely and not manipulated in support of releasing this person. The fact of the matter is, this guy is a violent repeat offender. He's going to get out in 2 years, and there's a very high chance that he's going to do it again. And on top of that, the prosecution is going to back him up when he does it again, because he'll essentially have been forced into that position. He had to do it, and it's just so sad that this person had to murder somebody over $300. I mean, gosh, all he had to do was not attack an 86-year-old man while he was at the ATM for $300, but apparently that was a bridge too far. That's too big of an ask, and we just gotta accept the fact that this guy is just so sweet and so innocent and such a bebe angel that the prosecution had to protect him. And again, while she's doing that, she has been nasty to Daniel Penny in the courtroom. She has gone out of her way to do every single dirty trick in order to prosecute him. And it just goes to show you the way this person views the racial hierarchy, because of course Matthew Lee is a black person who attacked and killed an 86-year-old Asian man. Meanwhile, Daniel Penny, who would have stopped an attacker like Matthew Lee, Jordan Neely, who by the way was threatening to kill people on that train, she's throwing the book at him.
There's no way you could put 9 white people in a room that would find Daniel Penny guilty. They picked a white supremacist jury specialist to target the racists in that jury. The prosecution pointed out the fact that defense was eliminating people based on race. Let me take it back because I don't want to scare y'all. Logically thinking, if you pick a white supremacist jury specialist and you pack the jury with white people, obviously you think race has a significant role in this case, and obviously you are looking for that one white supremacist holdout. That one holdout. Might have been more, but there was definitely one person in there that said, I'm not going to convict this white kid for killing that poor little mentally ill Negro piece of trash. Forgive my language, but I'm proving a point. This is how they think. The defendant himself called Jordan a dirty crackhead. And the police let him go. The police found inconsistencies in his story and allowed Daniel Penny to walk free. When does that happen for black people? Am I not making my point clear enough? Racism has its tentacles all over this case. Racism has its evil tentacles all over its case and all around the minds of white America.
Now, by the way, the dumb reaction to this drop in charges, which again is a cynical move in order to break a mistrial because Daphne Euron could not prosecute her own damn case, despite the fact that she's using every single twisted tactic in order to do so, is absurd in every possible way. These Black Lives Matter activists actually believe that this is indicative of evil white racism, evil white supremacy, when in reality, what's actually happening is that the will of them, the Black Lives Matter activists, is being bent to by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office in order to placate them. So you end up twisting and bending the justice system in unfair ways in order to benefit their side, and then they accuse you of bending it and twisting it in order to defend Daniel Penny, which is just absolutely absurd from top to bottom. If we had any sensible justice system at all whatsoever, Daniel Penny would have never been charged. If we had a cruel justice system that was at least even-handed, then Eric Gonzalez, the man who assisted Daniel Penny, who fled from the police, by the way, who went into hiding for a week, who ended up lying to the police and the Manhattan District Attorney in his initial interviews, would be charged along with them. But we have neither. We have the double standard justice system in favor of these Black Lives Matter activists, and guess what? They're still not happy happy with it. They're still testing the waters on whether or not there should be Black Lives Matter riots over Jordan Neely, because isn't it the height of white supremacy that a homeless, schizophrenic, high on drugs black person can't just come on a train after having 42 arrests and being dumped on the streets repeatedly and threaten to kill people and then be able to kill people? I mean, how dare you stop this innocent Beba Angel Michael Jackson impersonator from attacking people on the train? How dare you step up for your fellow citizens? That's just you being an evil white racist.
Racism is still alive and kicking in America. There's no other way to view this. Everyone has looked at the case, and those among you who say that Daniel Penny is innocent have racism and bias in your heart. If you look at the facts of this case, then you understand that Daniel Penny is guilty. But today, white supremacy got another victory. Today, the KKK, the Klansmen, the evil in America got another victory. They got that top charge dismissed. America shall continue to America and shall continue to place second-class status on black people.
I'm the co-founder of Black Lives Matter Greater New York. I stand here heartbroken because I have to hug a father who knows that the murderer of his son will most likely go free, who has to look in the face of a jury that no matter the facts, no matter the expert witnesses, no matter the people yelling on that train that day to let Jordan go, you will kill him. They will not find a white man guilty of killing a black man in modern day America. This is no different than Jim Crow. This looks like a picture out of the picture book when you look at that anonymous jury. We have baby boomers who were there doing Jim Crow on this jury. We have young people who are looking at Daniel Penny as a hero. And what America is a hero of killer. He didn't give a crap about Jordan. The medical examiner said Jordan turned purple. Yes, black people can turn purple when they are denied oxygen. Every lab report showed he died of asphyxiation. And that doesn't matter because they want to spare a white man the penalty of his crimes. America has not changed, and I hate to say it, it may never change. And people who keep asking, are we going to riot? Are we going to protest? Is that what's needed? Do glass have to break? Do cars have to burn for a black man to get justice in America? We can't show up with peace. We can't show up with facts. We can't show up with evidence and witness after witness. You give us nothing. And then you ask us to love this country. America hates black people, and we see it from that jury pool.
A black man was lynched, and his name was Jordan Neely.
Look, I said it before and I'll say it again. This particular case is the spiritual successor, the sequel, if you will, the modern retelling of the Bernie Getz case. And what's actually going down right now is that you have a bunch of racially motivated activists that are seeking revenge on white people in general because Bernie Getz was rightfully found not guilty in that particular case back in the 80s. So they're doing everything and anything to go after Daniel Penny. Obviously, it is politically motivated. We've talked about this multiple times, but District Attorney Alvin Bragg reduces charges, his office, 60% of the time for serious violent felons. We just heard about this specific prosecutor looking at the circumstances of the attacker in order to determine that he needed to be treated with kid gloves, despite the fact that he was a repeat offender, despite the fact that he killed somebody for money for $300. And guess what? I think we're looking at a potential conviction for Daniel Penny. Now, I can only hope that there will be a mistrial on the criminally negligent homicide if that is the case, because they can no longer pursue the manslaughter charge because that was dismissed by the judge. Then that makes the retrial of Daniel Penny far less likely, but I'm actually hopeful for an acquittal, even though that seems extraordinarily unlikely. However, there is something that I want to address that a lot of people in my comments leave under every single Daniel Penny video, and that is that Daniel Penny should be Donald Trump's first pardon if he gets into office. Now, I need to make this 100% clear for everybody out there in the audience. Donald Trump cannot pardon Daniel Penny. The only person who can pardon him, because it's a state crime, would be the governor of New York, and Governor Kathy Hochul is not likely to do so. Let's be clear about that. So everybody leaving me those comments and saying that this is a hopeful, optimistic resolution, the fact of the matter is there is a 0% chance that can happen, because it's not within the powers of the president. It's not within the pardoning powers of the president because there is no federal jurisdiction over this particular case. So yeah, we are in for a disaster if Daniel Penny gets convicted. The Black Lives Matter criminals are calling for all kinds of craziness if he is let go, but he should be let go. These people should be dismissed because they've been one of the most destructive forces in American politics and one of the most destructive forces on the American judiciary ever since they started gaining prominence in the United States of America. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the madness in the Daniel Penny case. Till next time.